Hello and welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today, Susan Lee. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here, Lori.
I know this is going to be a good conversation because we had to jump through a couple of hoops to get here. So,
Absolutely. I agree with you.
yeah. So we met on LinkedIn, and I reached out and I said, "Hey, do you have an interesting story for Fine is a four-letter word?" And you said, "I actually do." So
Yes.
before we get into that, tell me a little bit about the values and beliefs that you were raised with or that were ingrained into you as you were growing up, and how did they contribute to you becoming who you've become?
I grew up in a military family. So discipline was like a core value of ours. Discipline, timeliness, hard work. I'm just trying to think, those were the main ones. And I've carried them all the way into my work ethic today.
Yeah. Okay. And did you like normally you think of those things as good things? Do they have a downside for you?
I think not a downside for me, but I think it does impact your expectation of other people. So
Mm,
your values that you're raised with kind of, you can't necessarily expect someone else to have the same value system. And so I don't think it's a negative. I think it's just an opportunity to kind of keep your mind open that other
mhm.
people don't have the same system you have.
Was that an issue for you when you were first getting into the workforce? Like, was it surprising that other people didn't have those same values?
I think so. I think it's very surprising. I think, when you graduate from college and you come out with these ideas of what life is like, and then you hit reality when you hit the workforce. I think it's just a reconciliation of what your ideation is and then what reality is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that still goes on, like, no matter what your upbringing was, when you start getting into the world and seeing how other people operate, you're like, "W wait a minute. This isn't quote unquote right."
This isn't the way it's supposed to be. I,
Right, they're thinking the same thing about you.
and look, it still carries on. My kids do it now. They're in the workforce and they're doing the same thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So what was your career or what has makes it sound like it's over. It's not over. I know that. But what did you go into first and did you stay there or like tell me a little bit about the path?
I graduated from college and was one of the craziest people in the world. I wanted to go into sales. When recruiters come to the school and they're looking for jobs, looking for people to interview for jobs, nobody was in the line for sales but me. And I started there, and I've been there ever since. I've grown, in my career from, a seller to a manager of a federal business, all the way to where I am now, which is a vice president at an interior design organization.
What was it that excited you about sales?
That you are in charge of your success.
Mm,
You don't necessarily have to depend on another person for your success. I mean, you do depend on people, you do work with people, you have expectations, but when it comes to your financial success, it really falls in your lap. And I like that.
okay. Yeah, I think that's what people don't like is it's a little scary, right?
Yes. I you asked about how I grew up, and I grew up in a military family, and I grew up with a father who was very conservative. He didn't think women should be doctors. He didn't think they should succeed. And so for me, early on, a no meant a yes for me. So I just carried that into sales. Like, tell me what I can't do, and I'm going to show you that I can do it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, some people are motivated um, being told like they're going to prove you wrong. That
That's
sounds like what you
exactly
were.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still to this day, I still live that.
Uh-huh. Okay. What have you been told recently that you can't do that you're like, "Oh, I'll show you."
Well, I'm not sure. I think if I had to say what I can't do now, I think I'm learning from my kids. My kids are young adults. And the way once you raise them, and instill the values, they become independent people. And so when you're trying to mother them, you learn very quickly that they don't want a mother. They want, support. They want somebody in their corner, but they don't need a mother at this point. They want to make their own decisions. So I think not in work, but I think in personal life, I think that's where I'm learning to kind of fall back and become an observer versus being active.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have any kids myself, And however, a lot of my friends do, and I think we're about the same age. And yeah, watching them with their adult kids, they say it's more challenging than when they were smaller.
Yes, I think so because I think we have to navigate differently. We're in charge. We're teaching them everything, and now what I've learned is I can learn from my kids. I learn a lot from them.
Mm, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, the show is called "Fine" is a four-letter word. So let's hop over to the story, the time in your life when you were saying everything was fine and it wasn't fine at all.
You know,
Tell me
Lori,
about that.
Lori, when we talked about this, as we were kind of getting to know each other, when I was walking in the grocery store and you were talking to
Right.
me,
Our
um,
pre-show call, you were picking up groceries for your growing kids and cuz yeah.
the one thing that I recall in life was when I was probably at the beginning of my career at the company I am at now, and something happened where it was uncovered that I had cancer. And that, when you hear those words, they just kind of shock you. You don't
Mhm.
know what to do. You don't know how to handle it. And what ended up happening is I ended up having to have surgery. And so I had to go out of work. And I was leading in an organization of 65 sellers. And I had to step away from that. Um, and just the journey of going through surgery, having to rely on other people, and then the entrance back into the workforce was very, very interesting. And so for me, that was probably a time in my life when it was an opportunity for me to learn things, but also to acknowledge that I wasn't okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Um you tell a little bit more about that story because that was kind of a random finding.
It sure was. As a busy mom, we were, on the weekends, you're out running errands, you're taking kids to cheer practice, to football, and it was raining. And I jumped out of the car and I slammed the car door and I forgot to move my hand. So I closed my hand in the car door. Long story short, I ended up getting a tetanus shot, and it wasn't healing. Like my arm was just in pain on an ongoing basis. So the doctor sent me um, to get a CT scan, and no, an MRI, not a CT scan, an MRI. And I got the report, and I was driving. Somebody had told me, always read your reports, always read your medical records. And when I read it, it said an incidental finding of a nodule in my lung. And ordinarily, no one would think anything of it. I don't smoke. I'm, healthy. I exercise, eat well. So ordinarily, somebody would have just said, that's nothing. But my mother had lung cancer. And so what it did is it was an indication that I needed to immediately go and be seen because lung cancer is a silent killer. So if you don't address it early, it can take you off the planet. So it was an incidental finding, but a blessing to me because I was able to get in very early and deal with it, at stage one.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Wow. That you were talking too about the before the surgery. So you'd been diagnosed, but you
Mhm.
hadn't gone through surgery yet, and you were in the process of a kickoff for a launch project, right?
Well, what happened was I had the surgery, and
Oh, okay.
when I came back to work, every year we do a sales kickoff. You got to motivate your sellers, and so kind of amping yourself up to motivate them is very difficult when you have just faced a life ending or life threatening illness. And I would cry like driving to work. I would just cry every day. I had to be strong when I got in the office. I had to be strong at home. So the only time I had to deal with the emotional side of facing the fact that I had cancer was when I was in the car by myself. And so literally, Lori, we've talked about the traffic in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's a pretty long commute. So it gave me a lot of time to cry. But,
Yeah.
that's the I'm not okay, but I don't know how to articulate that I'm not okay.
Did you beat yourself up for crying?
That's funny. Again, I reflect back to military upbringing, family full of men. I have brothers, I don't have sisters. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be strong. I mean, and if you ask anybody who knows me, they're going to say I'm one of the strongest people they know. However, Your strongest people are actually probably some of your weakest people underneath. They just mask it pretty well.
That's why I asked the question. And you didn't answer it. Were you beating yourself up?
I was facing, like, I felt like my body had failed me. I felt like I had done everything right and my body had failed me. I'll tell you, the first time I went to get a massage after I had cancer, I cried during the massage because I felt like the link of my mind and my body weren't together. I wasn't in sync, and I felt like my body had let me down.
Okay. And then was the massage, was that emotion, was that kind of an emotional release? Did you feel like?
I felt like it was a journey. I think,
Mhm.
the entire year after I had cancer, I did different things to try to, cope with having gone through that. I mean, it was pretty scary for my family. It was pretty scary for my husband. And I
Yeah.
kept thinking, I don't drink. I don't, I eat right. So I spent the year drinking, eating whatever I wanted to. I stopped exercising. I was like, I'm not doing anything. If I do all the right things and I get cancer,
Yeah.
I'm just going to do all the wrong things. And that's literally what I did for a year. And then I
Yeah.
came
Well,
to, sorry,
it was no, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then I came to my senses that that wasn't going to work either.
Okay. I was going to say though, sometimes you have to just let go of all the things that you think you're supposed to be doing and let yourself do what feels like you need to do in that moment or in that, that week or whatever.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, it was an entire year. And again, you learn about yourself as you go through these different phases of life. But to have the freedom, I feel like we run through life. I feel like we've been
Yes.
taught to work hard, to, get out there and produce and get things done. And I think if nothing else, cancer taught me to slow down, that you don't have to do everything yourself, that there are other people that are perfectly capable of doing it, and that you need to release it to them and allow them to do it. Whether they succeed or fail, you've got to let go. And I've lived my life that way. From the time I had it to now, I feel like the universe is going to take care of you. I feel like, if you do the right things, everything comes in alignment. But if you try to do everything yourself, you're just going to run yourself into the wall. And so you cannot do that.
Yeah. You said if you do all the right things, what are all the right things?
To me, here we are. I'm trying to be a great mom. I'm trying to do all the right things for them, helping with homework, driving them everywhere, cooking their food. You know what? They don't always need a home cooked meal. Sometimes you can stop at a fast food restaurant and get something to eat. They don't have to always eat right, or, let them fail on their homework. Let them take it in, to school and learn something about it. Let the teacher help them because, good Lord, they used to get a lot of homework. And
Hmm.
then, you know, in my home, my husband owned his own business, so he was constantly at that business. And I think I needed to give him permission to actually help me. I feel like he was like, she's got it, so I'm just going to focus here. And I think the slowing down, the reality of the fact that we were going through this as a family, caused him to kind of step up at home a lot more. He was
Wow.
doing homework, he was helping, he was seeing the things that I was going through with these kids, firsthand versus hearing it from me. So
Yeah. How long ago was this diagnosis?
it was 10 years ago. 10 years
Okay.
to this year.
Okay. Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
getting to this point. I have a feeling that did you ever have any doubt that you would get to here?
Yes. I mean, anybody who's had cancer will tell you that you have scan anxiety. I can't say scanxiety. I don't know what it's called. But literally every time you go to get a scan or get a blood test, you are dealing with yourself. You are rationalizing. You are saying, what if I get news that it's come back? That is something as a cancer survivor, you walk with. People that are listening, people that are cancer survivors will nod their head and say, this is something that you go through. Even at 10 years, you're like, what if it comes back? What do I do if it comes back? How am I going to deal with this?
Yeah. What what other lessons do you think it taught you?
Cancer?
Yeah. The
Um,
whole experience, not just cancer, but the experience since as you've moved through it.
the job will be there. Any job will be there. Don't worry about your job. Don't focus on your job. You don't have to be the best employee there. I think one of the biggest things for me is, I'm a woman, leader. executive, and you're trying to be twice as good. You're trying, and I'm an African American woman, so I'm trying three times as hard to be
Mhm.
heard in the room, to be acknowledged, for my work to be recognized. And what I learned from that is I know what I'm doing. I know how successful I am. I don't need to prove it to anyone. My work speaks for itself. And I've also learned that, if you just sit still, things eventually work out the way that they should. You don't have to push so hard to try to get them to do that. They eventually evolve into that anyway.
Yes. And you had said, I have a note here from our first conversation that your boss was nervous and was questioning your ability to get the job done.
Without a doubt, when I came back, there were a few people in the organization trying to sabotage me, and they are no longer there. But when I was out, they tried to get to the president, talk to him, cast doubt in his mind. And the president and I have a really good relationship. We've worked together for years. There's a mutual respect level between us. But he kind of was questioning like everything I was doing. Well, what is this? What's in the forecast, or what are you doing with this? And he drove down to the office one day, and he'll probably listen to this and he'll remember it because we just talked about it. But he was like, he drove down to talk to me, and we were going through my business plan that I had prepared before I left to have surgery, and I was like, nothing fell apart. Everything that I have on here is happening. But I just told him, at that point, I was like, if you want to fire me, go ahead and fire me. Because at this point in time, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll land on my feet, but I'm not going to go through being questioned. I'm not going to go through you not believing in me, because you believed in me to this point. And, it was a very emotional time for both of us. But, that was probably, I want to say that was like 5 years into the job, and 10 years later, we doubled the volume of the company. So, it
Mhm.
worked out.
Yeah, it's a part of it sounds like you're not just dealing with your own fears, but now you feel like you have to manage other people's fears around your situation.
Well, it's not just at work, it's also at
Yeah.
home. I had
Yeah.
kids, trying to convince your kids that you're not going to die. I mean, the first thing that they think when they hear the word cancer is that you're going to die. And,
Mhm.
it's so funny because we moved recently, and my youngest daughter had written a paper about, I don't want my mother to die. And it was just a gigantic fear for her. And I think even to this day, she still has anxiety about it, but to convince my kids that, I'm going to be here, I think that's where the greatest level of concern is, when your kids feel like, you're not going to be here for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um what what were the other lessons, cuz so one of the things you had said that I also have notes about is that you learned that you weren't showing up for yourself in the way that you have since come to believe
Well,
is important.
I think, Lori, that's what I say. After that year of trying to drink myself to death and not exercise and just do anything, that's when you reconcile and say, "Wait a minute, this is not how I want to finish out, my life."
Mhm.
And then you start to put together the things that make sense. And many women, sacrifice their wants, their needs for everybody else. You show up for your
Right.
kids, you show up for your husband, but every day I started walking. I mean, from the time I had cancer, I just started walking. And I developed such a sense of peace just being outside. To this day, I still walk at least 5 days a week, just because that's a space that's mine. I can commune with God. I can walk. I can feel good. I'm working on my body. I'm working on my mind. And so, doing that is very important. And also saying no to things. I think the toughest thing sometimes that we do as women is we want to please everybody. So we say yes. And, we can't be afraid to say no. I mean, so they'll find a way. We
Yeah.
don't have to be the shero and everything. And so learning to say no to a lot of things is something that, once you overcome that little hump, it feels really good. It's really liberating.
Absolutely. And it frees up the other people, because if you say yes to something that you don't really want to do, there's that little bit of resentment, or maybe it's a lot of resentment. And
Yes.
so you're doing the thing, but there's this feeling of resentment. Everybody can feel that.
Yeah. And it takes a toll on you emotionally. It really does. And
Yes.
our mental health
Emotion
is, sorry.
I was going to say emotionally and physically.
Hmm. But I think we have to preserve our mental health. I think that's one of the things that we really don't focus on as much as we should. But not just our physical health, not just our spiritual health, but our mental health has to be in place. And sometimes we sacrifice our mental health, for other people.
Right, right. So you brought it up. What are you doing to help your team in that regard?
At this point, I have evolved over from leading the sales organization. I actually took a step over, and I'm working in a special vertical market, and I have one employee. And what's nice
Oh,
about it,
okay.
yeah, and what's nice about it is that she's a young up and comer, and so being able to coach her, she's gone through her own adversity, and
Mhm.
what I've learned is she just needs somebody to support her and believe in her. And leading by example is one thing, but leading by allowing them to go forward is what we've been doing over the last year. So instead, she's like, no, I really want you here. And I'm like, you don't need me. You can do it yourself. And so just empowering the next generation to realize that they can do it and to show them that we believe in them and support them as they're going forward. And she's doing a phenomenal job.
Ah, that's awesome. I mean, isn't that really what everybody really needs more than someone telling them what to do is someone supporting them, maybe believing in them before they can fully believe in themselves.
Yes, I life coach on the side, and I don't charge for it. I do it for free, and I do it with young kids that have young adults that are graduating from college, or they've started their first job and they want to go to their second. And that's literally what we do is just take a look at their assets, what they do really well, and kind of transfer that over. And I also try to connect them with people. You mentioned LinkedIn. I try to show them how to use LinkedIn, but they just need somebody in their corner. And a lot of times kids don't listen to their parents when they come out. They want to do it themselves. And so this is an opportunity for them to still have adult supervision or coaching or guidance without it being their parents.
Right, right, right. What's that? There's a saying that that you're not a genius in your own town or something like that. Like nobody's an expert in their own town. It's kind
Yeah.
of like the
Yeah.
same thing. Like nobody's going to listen to their parents, or a lot of times people don't listen to their partner.
Yep.
But a consultant comes along and says the exact same thing, and they're like, "Hey, this guy gave me great advice."
I think all the parents out there can relate to that because even in school, like you can tell your kids how to do a math problem, but the teacher doesn't do it that way. And so I know there are parents out there right now that have the same thing where the kid comes home and says, that's not how we learned it in school. And so you just throw your hands up. You're like, whatever, go back to school. Let them show you.
Right, right, right. I can't help you. You're on your own now. Yes. What so I love that you brought up that you're walking because I teach tools and techniques for business leaders and teams to be able to find better focus and
Mhm.
overcome adversity and find resilience and all these things. But the tools and techniques that I teach are so what I would call simple,
Mhm.
just like walking. And sometimes, a lot of times, people are like, well, wait, it can't be that easy.
Yes, it is that easy. And I tend to walk like 5 miles. I mean, I've worked up to
A
that
day.
because, yeah, 5 miles a day
Okay.
because I've worked up to that because once you do it over a period of time, your endurance builds up. And people look at me like you really do, but I tell you that is the best step away. I get the greatest ideas when I'm walking. Just
Yes.
inspiration for other things. It's not just you walking. And the other thing about it is actually meeting people on the street. I think when I started doing it, I was like, people don't speak. And then I realized I wasn't speaking. So when I started
Mm.
speaking, people started speaking back. And there are really kind people out there that need that smile in the morning or in the afternoon. And you can actually change the course of someone's day when you just come across them casually walking out in the morning. And then you start to see regular people. You see the same people every day. So it's kind of nice.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you just said that you can change people's. What did you say? I was thinking change people's energy, but you
Yep.
can
That's
change their outlook. You can change their day. Yeah, you don't know what they're going through,
correct. Correct.
and just simply giving a smile or a good morning or whatever it is. This is the thing. People want to be acknowledged, and um, yeah, I think that's just I mean, people want to be seen and acknowledged. And so many people go through their days without that, which
Hmm.
is why I think we have this loneliness epidemic in our
Without a
country.
doubt.
I don't know, it's probably the world, but
Mhm. Hmm.
Yeah, to be able to make that human connection.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes, what we don't realize is that we can change somebody's life by speaking, but just giving a simple hug to someone close to
Yeah,
you, sometimes you don't know how important that is. The loneliness I think comes from, people are afraid to put themselves out there. And so
yeah.
opening the door by being kind, opening the door by, I don't know if you see my sweatshirt, but I've got kindness on my sweatshirt.
Oh, I love it.
I just feel like this world is full of so much stress and so much turmoil.
Yes,
We need to be reminded that just being kind can change the course. It doesn't matter your political affiliation. Lead with love. Like,
yes,
what's politics when all is said and done and we leave this earth? It's not about politics. It's literally about how you lived your life. That's what's
yeah.
most important.
And it doesn't cost anything to be kind.
It feels good.
Yes, yes, you feel good. The
Hmm.
person you're being kind to feels good.
Hmm.
And there's been research on this that anybody who is a third party who is watching the interaction also gets the benefit. Or now that we are talking about it, anybody
Hmm.
who's listening gets the benefit. Like it's such a huge ripple effect.
It is. It definitely is.
Yes. Yes. The going back to the walking and getting the great ideas is because you're letting your mind kind of wander. And
Hmm.
there was a book, oh man, what book was that? I think it was called Focus by Johan Hari.
Hmm.
I think it's a New York Times bestseller. He talks in that book about the importance of daydreaming and
Hmm.
how we don't allow ourselves to do it anymore. We're always so attached to our electronics.
Yes.
And that what you're talking about is letting your mind wander so that you can become more creative and more innovative and just it feels better.
And
You're,
it
you're
it provides balance, I think, to what you're going to face the rest of the day. Because, once you step into corporate America, there are all kinds of challenges that are coming your way, corporate games, and, it's all kinds of things. And so
Mhm.
starting your day, a lot of people meditate, a lot of people do
Yeah,
yoga. But just for someone to find what works for them, it's essential that you start your day that way. That's reinforcement for when you walk into that office and it's so stressful. It just gives you a little bit of centering. I think about when I was a mother early, my kids were so little. You are running ragged, and you know you can barely get a shower, you can barely eat anything, and that car ride sometimes is all you have. Or at night, and I know a lot of parents, early parents, young parents can relate to this. You're laying in that bed staring at the ceiling because you have nothing left and you can't close your eyes because you're like, this is the only moment of mental clarity I have to myself. So yeah, I mean, however you can get it, whether it's early in the morning, whether it's in the shower, whether it's, laying in your bed at 11 o'clock at night, just staring at the ceiling. I think it's essential that people have that moment to themselves.
yeah, I appreciate that you said it's about finding what works for you. So not everybody's going to get that mental clarity from walking 5 miles a day,
Nope.
although I don't know most people would, and the physical benefit as well.
Hmm.
Uh, and not everybody's into meditation. I get that, even though I think everybody should practice
Hmm.
meditation. But
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
and that's kind of what you are doing on that walk. That's the thing is what works for you.
Yeah, because if I meditate, I'm thinking of the grocery list. I'm thinking I got to make that bed. Like I can't. That's one thing that's difficult for me is meditation because I can do about 2 minutes and then I'm like somewhere else. Like my mind goes everywhere. So
Except you are meditating when you're out on your walks. This is the
true.
thing that I'm
True.
always talking about is that let's redefine what meditation is.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, yeah. What is on the horizon for Susan Lee?
Wow, it's funny you're asking that because I just gave notice at work,
What?
and yeah, I gave notice
You
to my
heard it here first.
after 13 years, one thing, as you get older, you start to realize that, well, even in companies, a company can't grow if they don't have new ideas and fresh ideas and, you know, different talent coming in. And so that's what the last 2 years has been like for our organization. We brought in our succession plan, right? And so that started to take over. And I think the best thing that we can do is make sure the training wheels are on, that they do, that they're set, that they don't need any help. And then once they get to that point, you can step away and there's life after, a long career. And so that's what I'm exploring now. I don't have the answer yet, but I'm
Okay.
searching and I'm giving myself permission to have time. I think I've been in a high pressure job since I was 21 years old, and I can sit still for just a little while until I figure it out. And I'm giving myself permission to do that.
That right there is a key takeaway. Give yourself permission
Hmm.
to figure things out and to not always have the answer right at the tip of your fingers.
Right.
Oh my gosh, enjoy that journey.
It feels empowering.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I do know that I'm going to do something. But I also feel like if I just have faith and trust, I'm laughing because my son and I are both kind of looking at jobs at the same time. We're sitting next to each other. He's on his iPad. I'm on my computer. I'm like, okay, let's apply for that job or let's try this. So it's kind of funny that we're sitting there, and I know that's the same son you heard me walking around the grocery store with buying food. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that you're on the parallel journey.
yes, he's beginning and I'm at the end.
Yeah. It's still so much in common to share there.
Hmm.
What is the song? You seem very grounded, and I know it's because of the practices we talked about that you do. Uh, when you need an extra boost of energy, though, what is the song that you listen to?
Uh,
Maybe when you're out on a walk or not? Not.
It's it's like my amp up song, and it's
Okay.
A Beautiful Day by India Ari.
Oh,
And
I love that song.
what's nice about it is it's life is a journey. It's not a destination. There are no mistakes. See, this is what we do. We beat ourselves up over mistakes, and
Yes.
just they're just chances we've taken. And if I could say anything to your audience, I would say, please take chances. Please take the risk. It's worth it. You learn so much in the process. Sometimes you'll succeed, sometimes you'll fail, but you've done it and you have no regrets about it. So, that's what she says. She says, lay down your regrets because all we have is now, you know,
Hmm.
seize the moment to live today. When you get out of bed, you're making a mental list that's in the song. And it's just, you know, it's a new day. It's a brand new day. It's a beautiful day. It's a mindset shift. It's saying that it's beautiful. Starting out, putting positivity in the universe is so important. And if you talk to anybody that I know, they'll let you know that I live that every day because we have another chance today to do better than we did yesterday.
Mm. And that is why I guess I intuitively knew you would be a fantastic guest for this show. Is what you just said. Yeah. If someone wants to continue a conversation with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
LinkedIn. My name is
Okay.
Susan Jackson Lee, and they can reach out on LinkedIn because right now I don't know where I'm going, but I know I'm going somewhere. But yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I will respond because I'm literally on there every day. I like to post positive messages. If anybody goes, they'll see I post very positive messages on there. Today was a really interesting one. I'm just going to look real quick because I posted my daughter in this regal, confident position, and I just want to tell you what it says. It
Yeah.
says, "Be someone who is resilient, someone unyielding in the face of challenges or adversity, showing your strong spirit and determination." And I said, "Be indomitable."
Good word. That is, I will put a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, as well as a link to your song, the India RE song, so people can find you and the song easily. Susan, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a Four-Letter Word.
Lori, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. And I wish you a beautiful